Everyone had already given up. Everyone except one broke, exhausted single father with nothing left to lose. The helicopters were gone. The search teams had packed their tents. The news anchors had already started using the past tense. And deep inside a freezing mountain cave, a billionaire nobody expected to see alive again was running out of time. Then, at first light, one man who had no business being on that mountain made a choice that would rewrite both of their lives. Grant Ashford was 39 years old, and by every measure that mattered to the world, he had failed. He worked construction 6 days a week and picked up scrap-hauling jobs on the 7th. His daughter, Nora, was 9, sharp as a blade, and never once complained that her lunches came from the discount bin. Grant's wife had died 4 years earlier. Fast, brutal, and cheap in the way illness is cheap when you can't afford to fight it properly. And since then it had just been the two of them against everything. He never let Nora see him break. Every morning, no matter how far behind on rent he was, he smiled at her over cereal like the world wasn't crushing him one bill at a time. That was the man the mountain was about to test. The disappearance of Vivian Sorrell had swallowed every news cycle in the country for 5 straight days. She was the founder of a logistics empire worth more than some small nations, and she had gone hiking alone during a corporate retreat when a storm rolled in without warning. Whiteout conditions, landslides, trails erased overnight. 200 volunteers, a dozen rescue dogs, and a fleet of drones and helicopters had combed the range and found nothing but silence. On the 5th morning, officials stood in front of cameras and said the words everyone had been dreading. Asterisk, the search has been suspended. Survival at this point is considered unlikely. Asterisk. Grant watched it happen live, fork halfway to his mouth, Nora beside him doing her math homework like it was any other Tuesday night. Something about it wouldn't let him go. He didn't know Vivian Sorrell. He'd never see a cent of her money, never sit in one of her boardrooms, never matter to a woman like that in any way that counted. But he kept picturing someone alone in the dark, waiting for a rescue that had already been called off, and he couldn't finish his dinner. If it were Nora up there, he thought, would they have stopped looking after 5 days too? He didn't sleep that night. Before the sun came up, he wrote Nora a note. Back by tonight. Love you. Don't tell anyone I'm gone. Grabbed a flashlight, 2 water bottles, and a backpack that had seen better decades, and drove north toward a mountain that professionals had already declared a lost cause. He wasn't a rescue expert. He didn't have a map with grid coordinates or a satellite radio. What he had was 15 years of reading terrain for a living. Broken branches, disturbed rock, the particular way frost sits differently where something has passed through. By mid-morning, a park ranger at the trailhead tried to wave him off. Sir, this area is closed. Search is over. I'm not asking permission, Grant said, and kept walking. The ranger didn't stop him. Nobody expected a construction worker in a second-hand jacket to find what 200 trained professionals couldn't. That was the quiet joke the mountain seemed to be playing on everyone, that the man least equipped on paper was the only one still climbing. Hours passed. His legs shook. Twice he sat down on a rock and told himself it was time to turn back, that he had a daughter waiting, that this wasn't his fight. Both times, he stood back up. Then, just past a shelf of fallen trees nobody had bothered searching because the terrain was too unstable to justify the risk, he saw it. A scrap of expensive fabric, torn and half buried in frost. His pulse spiked. He followed a faint drag mark behind a cluster of boulders and found the black mouth of a cave hidden almost perfectly by deadfall. He clicked on his flashlight and called out, voice cracking from the cold. Nothing. Then, so faint he almost missed it, the smallest shift of movement. His light swept the dark and landed on her. Vivian Sorrell was pressed against the cave wall, covered in dirt and dried blood, one ankle swollen and useless beneath her. Her eyes found the light and widened, not with relief, not yet, but with the particular disbelief of someone who has already made peace with dying and is being asked to unmake it. She rasped. You're real? I'm real, Grant said, already moving toward her. You're not alone anymore. He gave her water in careful sips, wrapped her in his own jacket, and half-carried her toward the ridge where his phone finally caught 1 bar of signal. His hands were shaking too hard to dial on the first try. Within the hour, the sky that had been empty for 2 days filled with helicopters again. The entire country watched it happen live. Stretcher, blanket, oxygen mask. A woman the world had already grieved, carried down a mountain by the last person searching for her. Reporters swarmed. Someone shoved a microphone at Grant before he'd even caught his breath. "Sir, what made you keep looking when everyone else had stopped?" Grant looked at the camera the way a man looks at something he doesn't fully trust. "Somebody had to," he said, and walked away before they could ask anything else. He didn't give his name. He didn't wait for a thank you. He drove home, kissed Nora on the top of her head, and told her he'd just been out running errands. For a week, nobody outside that mountain knew who he was. Vivian Sorrell, recovering in a hospital bed, asked investigators over and over who had found her. The man who'd refused a reward, refused an interview, refused even to say his own name on camera. It took her security team 4 days to track him down through a single blurry photo and a gas station receipt. The black car that pulled up outside Grant's house a week later looked like it belonged on a different planet than his cracked driveway. Vivian stepped out slower than she used to, a brace still on her ankle, but her eyes were sharp and steady. She walked into a home with patched furniture, a stack of unpaid bills fanned across the kitchen table like a losing hand of cards, and a 9-year-old finishing homework under a lamp that flickered every few minutes. She understood, in that moment, exactly what kind of man had saved her. The man who had refused every reward was the one who could least afford to. He had nothing, she thought, and he still gave me everything he had. She didn't offer him charity. Grant would have refused that in a heartbeat, and some part of her already knew it. Instead, she offered him a company. Within a month, Vivian had founded a construction and community rebuilding division inside her firm and put Grant in charge of it. Not as a favor, but because she'd seen exactly how he read terrain nobody else could, and she knew that instinct translated to more than mountains. She funded his certifications. She quietly set up a fund that would cover every year of Nora's education, from that flickering lamp all the way through college, without ever making it feel like a handout. She also built something bigger, a foundation for single parents working themselves into the ground while the world looked past them, the ones nobody sends a helicopter for. Grant stood, months later, in front of a crowd of families receiving keys to homes his own crew had built. Every wall represented a version of himself from before that morning on the mountain. The version who worked 2 jobs and still couldn't cover rent, who smiled at his daughter through exhaustion he never let her see. He never called himself a hero. He told people, when they asked, that he'd simply refused to accept that hope had a deadline. Vivian said something similar in nearly every interview she gave afterward, that she'd had money surrounding her for 20 years, and it had never once kept her warm in the dark. The thing that saved her life wasn't wealth. It was a man with almost none of it, who climbed a closed trail because he couldn't stop thinking about a stranger nobody was looking for anymore. Years later, Nora stood on a university stage in a cap and gown, scanning the crowd until she found her father's face. He wasn't in a suit that fit quite right. He never quite got used to nice things. But he was there, front row, the same man who used to write "back by tonight" on a torn scrap of paper and mean it. She hugged him after the ceremony and said the only thing that ever mattered. "You taught me that kindness doesn't wait for permission." Grant just held on tighter, the way he had every single morning since the day he lost everything and decided to keep smiling anyway. He never set out to save a billionaire. He set out to make sure nobody was left in the dark while there was still a light he could carry. That was the whole story. It always had been. The mountain didn't make him a hero. It just finally let the world see what his daughter already knew.
If this story touched your heart, subscribe to Dave's Stories for more inspiring stories.